Russia is the largest country in the world. It's so big that it covers more than 1/8 of the Earth's inhabited areas. And that's not all. There are 11 time zones in Russia. If you were in Kamchatka at 5 p.m. and you decided to call your friend living in Kaliningrad, you'd be surprised to find out they are just waking up at 7 a.m. in the morning. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we'll be taking a look at 3 Russian mysteries. Russian August Curse. The August Curse is a strange supernatural phenomenon that sees a lot of disasters and chaos occur in the month of August. This is something that might sound like a coincidence, but when something keeps happening back to back, you can be forgiven for believing there is something behind it. That is exactly what is happening with the August Curse. The August Curse could be traced to as far back as 1991. Since that time, Russia seems to suffer its worst tragedies in the month of August. Those tragedies can come in any form, from war to attempted coups, mass accidents, and even financial meltdowns. Several studies have been carried out to determine the cause of this myth. Russian media has speculated on an interpretation that is logical. They attribute the curse to the seasonal influence on human activity. A lot of people go out on vacation during August due to the favourable weather conditions than during winter, where everyone is mostly indoors, meaning August would be a favourable season to which criminals and terrorists can exploit. There's also a supernatural explanation to this presented by astrologist Elena Kuznetsova in 2009. She claimed that the tragedies are due to the relative positions of Saturn and Uranus, and that Russia's horoscope is directly connected to the annual August turmoil. Scientists in Russia have long proved that solar activity influences human behaviour, and because August is the month where Russia's temperature rises and is filled with radiation, there's a high chance it can influence people's moods. Shaik Baisayev. The second on our list is a married man by the name of Shaik Baisayev. Baisayev was born in 1939 and lived on the outskirts of Grozny, Chechnya. He was married with 5 children. Shaik Baisayev was just your regular civilian and works as an auto mechanic in a local company. However, it is his mysterious disappearance in 2002 which is interesting. It all started after a fire incident had happened in the neighbourhood of Grozny. This fire was started by protesters against the Amon paramilitary police forces. Unfortunately, Baisayev was on his way to work that day and the troops picked him up and detained him. You would have expected Baisayev to be given the chance to call his lawyer, but at that time, Russia was a very hostile place to be, with a lot of military brutalities. This was due to conflict and war that had broken out in 1991, so the country was somewhat lawless. So without a proper trial, the Russian troops began to violate Baisayev's rights by beating him up. They were making fun of his misery, and some of the troops even filmed the detention. As if that were not bad enough, the troops would later sell the videotape to his wife for $1,000. His wife was pleading for the release of her husband, but what she got was a video showing Baisayev lying on the ground and being kicked by a soldier before he was taken away. For some reason, those troops seemed to be having the time of their lives torturing Baisayev. We do not know exactly what happened to Baisayev in their custody, but we do know that they gave a sketched map to his wife which supposedly shows where her husband was buried. When she got there, she didn't find her husband, but she found a piece of cloth that looked like it was torn out of her husband's coat. Now you might be wondering why his wife hadn't involved the police, but she did, and it appears they could not do much to challenge the Russian troops. After the disappearance of her husband, she immediately gave the video footage of his detention to the authorities. However, the Russian authorities failed to carry out an effective investigation despite having the footage as evidence. For several years, Baisayev's perpetrators went free with no one being held accountable for his disappearance. When his wife discovered that she might never find justice in Russia, she took the case to the European Court of Human Rights for help. Russia was sued to court in a case termed Baisayev versus Russia. On April 5, 2007, the woman was able to defeat the world's largest country and brought justice for her husband. The European Court ruled that Baisayev's detention was an illegal act and they had demanded that he must be presumed dead. Until that time, Baisayev was only declared missing even though it has been 6 years since he was last seen. Unfortunately, the Russian troops depicted in the video were not identified by the official investigation, even though their faces could clearly be seen. But for the unfortunate woman, the European court held the Russian government responsible for the death of Mr. Baisayev and ordered them to pay £50,000 to his enraged wife as compensation for moral damages. No amount of money is enough to bring back Mr. Baisayev, but his wife did get some justice 7 years after the death of her husband. Because at the time of the ruling, there were 200 similar cases of disappearance pending before the European court. It would later be reported that an estimated 5,000 people disappeared in Chechnya since the start of the war. Alexander Kushin. If you've never heard of Alexander Kushin, he was a very young, ambitious oceanographer and Arctic explorer in the late 1880s to early 90s. At just 17 years of age, Alexander fell in love with the sea and became a seaman on a Norwegian ship. His exposure to Norwegians made him passionate about the culture. He mastered their language in 1 year and would later go on to write short Norwegian to Russian dictionaries for his compatriots. Kushin went for numerous expeditions, especially one to the South Pole. As an oceanographer and navigator, he made numerous observations in the southern Atlantic, but Kushin's biggest exploration was yet to come. In 1911, he earned his biggest trophy when he got engaged to Aslaug Paulsen, the girl of his dreams. They were deeply in love with each other and had planned to get married. At the end of one of their successful summer field expeditions, some top members of Kushin's ship returned to Russia for vacation. Captain Kushin and 10 others of his crew members got bored one day and decided to explore the Pacific Ocean via the northern sea route. The young captain and his crew had failed in consulting with the authorities in St. Petersburg. This would later end up being an awful decision because their ship was too small for the kind of expedition they had embarked on. Unfortunately, that would be the last expedition they would embark on because their ship would later disappear without a trace. The ship was sent in search of the crew in 1914 to 1915, but to no avail. It wasn't until 1937 that relics of the ship would be found. Captain Kushin was a very bright young man but sadly died at the age of 25, leaving behind his 18-year-old fiancée who later died in 1987. But what do you make of these Russian mysteries? Be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comment section below and help us by growing this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.